evening. It's a last-minute show. I've missed this one, but I got it scheduled in time. And I've got to say, straight first up, Jed Doyle. Come on, man. You know me better than that. Of course. Well, it's not full anymore because I've had a little bit already. But dilly, gin, all of that. Welcome to, what would you say it was? Episode 65 of Combe TV. And it's about the April Motorcycle Grand National. That's because we've got one later in the year as well. How amazing is that? What have you got there? Gonna have to change that logo. Which one, mate? Which one? We can't. That's I like the logo. I'm sold on it with the CC and it looking like a hairpin. I'm loving it now. I must be honest. I've taken a while. I do enjoy it. It's nice, clean, and professional. And Chin Chin, you say it's not Chin Chin, mate. Emma Strawford says, "Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Race Weekend Eve. It is, isn't it? Yeah. If you were saying that to Eve, of course, you'd have to say Race Weekend Eve. Just thinking. I'm overthinking, aren't I? Emma, by the way, if you know the Wi-Fi password to tell Martin, please text him the Wi-Fi password because he's doing it at the moment on his 4G. He's laughing now. He knows I've just grassed him up. He's laughing about that fact, but he is doing it on the 4G or whatever he's managed to get at the moment. Is it 2G, Martin, and a hamster? I don't know what he's got there at the moment, but he's doing his best. So if you do know it, please do text him. On that note, let's bring in the motley crew, and it is a motley crew and a half. Goodness me. We've got the two commentators for the weekend, the two-wheel experts, the aficionados. They're super passionate about it. They work together a lot. Martin Bennett, Rob Jones. Good evening, gents.
Good evening, Chris.
Martin's pretend. Oh, no, he
Thanks
was
very much. I'm still drinking.
Yeah, you're at the circuit, Martin, aren't you?
Sorry, what was that?
You're at the circuit, aren't you, mate? Oh God! It's ironic. It's gone the other way.
You're cracking up a bit, mate.
I'm always cracking up. Let's put him back there a minute because Martin's going to do it. CM, we do need him to have the password. Rob, you had the problems before we went air. You're absolutely fine now, mate, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm on my iphone. That's why.
That's what it is.
It seems to work, but
other phones. Other phones are available, by the way.
Yeah. Sonny Radstock's not very good for fibre broadband, I'm afraid.
You're doing all right now, mate. And I see that Martin's moving along a bit more freely, so we'll see whether we get him. We'll try our best. And Martin Bennett, check your mobile.
Here we are.
There you go. Emma's, thanks, Em. Appreciate it. Didn't want to text you at the 11th hour, so we knew you'd be watching, so we'd ask you that. So, Martin Bennett, check your mobile, get yourself checked back in again. He'll disappear in a minute and he'll come back on the Wi-Fi. What I'll do while Martin's just sorting that bit out, because he is at the circuit rather than tucked up at home, so bless him, he's doing a great job with that. But, Rob, just quickly, speak to me, my friend. You've been doing some amazing things this year already.
Yes, mate. Not only have I been commentating with Martin all last season, which I really enjoyed, I sort of did the MC come commentator at the Bristol Classic Bike Show. And,
that's so cool.
Loved every minute of it. It was great. I had two great guests to work with, which was Trevor Nation, ex-Works Norton rider, and the man who actually designed the Norton race engine, the rotary engine, which is... Brian Crichton, the rotary engine guru himself.
Wow.
No less. Yeah, and it was great. And they were so easy to work with, Chris.
I told you they would be, didn't I?
Yeah. It
was no, it was good. I mean, the big thing was, and I've got to let people into this because you might not necessarily believe it, with the character that Rob is to us all. And I say this because I can relate to it myself, is you were nervous.
Oh, yeah. When I first got, it was building up to the time, and I got there, and the first interview I did, I thought, oh, my God, what have I let myself in for here? But once we got going, and like I say, they were easy to work with. You sort of like the blue touch paper, and off they went, And, and it was really great. But for me, to be able to talk to someone like Brian Crichton, who is absolutely so knowledgeable, but as I would say, not at all. A very modest bloke, you know what I mean? Just, well, we just built this thing out of, you know, and that was it, you know. But incredible, yeah.
It's what I find all the time. I mean, I get to meet some incredible people with the things that I get to do. As we know, I'm four wheels predominantly, but I meet some amazing people, both in terms of drivers, in terms of motorsport, but also in terms of super successful business people with things that we know and use and hear about every single day that have now been successful and therefore go racing. And you speak to them all, they're us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They're no different, are they?
No, that's right. And even back in the days when I was scrutineering it at World Superbikes and things like that, you talk to the riders and they are us. They can just ride a bike a bit faster, mate. That's all it is.
Yeah, there is that. No,
yeah.
Absolutely. I remember, slight sidetrack. We will get on as soon as Martin's sorted. We will get onto this weekend, but I think it's fun to chat to the lads and pick things up. But I always remember in one of my early years of when I started commentating, I started now 12 years ago, unbelievably it is for me now. But I think it was like the second or third year I was at Brands Hatch and my dad came with me. And I forget who it was, but I was absolutely starstruck trying to interview somebody. And like I say, I just genuinely can't remember who it was. And he saw this and he said, Chris, remember something. They need you as much as you need them. If you're not interviewing them, they don't get the spotlight. They don't get the time on the microphone. So remember that. And as soon as he did that, and I went, you're right. And I just flicked, enjoyed just speaking to them, and suddenly realised that they appreciated that, actually.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and like I say, I just kept, as you give me advice, keep all the questions open. The worst thing you can say is, you know, you had a good season this year, didn't you? And they just look around and say,
yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, on that note, we've been trialling something at NG over the lunchtime. I've been going out and doing a bit of a roving mic. And one of the competitors I stopped, and he was trying to hide from me, and and I grabbed him and I asked him a question about his bike, because there's a certain bike, I won't say who it is, but it's a certain bike he races, and it's a bit different to everyone else's. And I said, tell us about this bike then. And he went, well, what do you want to know then? And it was quite difficult.
Well, this is where, from my experience, Martin, I can see you back in, mate. I'll bring you in 2 seconds, my friend. Is that I kind of went through this phase, and I remember it was at Shennington Karting that I got asked to go and do this particular event. And I'd never been there before. I'd not done that much on the karting. I'd been at sort of the main circuits. And I got asked to do this. And it included, in the lunchtime, there was a parade of historic karts that included like Sterling Moss's karts, Nigel Mansell's karts, all this amazing history there. And I went in the morning to sort of wander around the marquee that they were in on display to start with all the information boards. And then we were going to be bringing them out at lunchtime, and I was going to interview people. And so I'm rushing around in the morning, taking notes, wet behind the ear, thinking this is what I had to do, and I'm getting this guy telling me all about it, and I'm making these notes, and I'm thinking, this is going to go in one ear and out the other, because I don't understand fully what he's telling me. And that was my epiphany moment, where I suddenly went, hang on, it's not about me speaking about this. All I need to know is that there is something there to get them to get excited about. And for example, if you kind of go with stock question of speak to me about this bike, sometimes it will work. Of course it will.
Yeah.
But if you can know just a little bit, which you and Martin, this is the beauty, you guys know what the hell you're talking about, is that it then just makes them, they go, what do you want to know? And you go, well, I heard this, this, and this. And then the next thing is you light the blue touch paper for their enthusiasm, their passion, their anorak material.
That's right.
It is good. And I love it. I love it. Let's bring him in, otherwise he'll get upset.
Yeah.
Let's bring... welcome back, my friend. You're on Wi-Fi now. Oh, no.
I can't...
Ooh.
If anybody questioned if we were live, now you know we are. We are definitely live.
That's always the way. It's normally me, Chris, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was fun. Incidentally, by the way, is that Emma said no charge for the help that she's given, but she's on the fighting juice now. Get in.
Oh dear.
There we go. I heard that she went back with some red wine yesterday.
I'm only on the tea, I'm afraid.
Oh, that old chestnut. I was doing a show with someone the other week, and they were off unwell, and they had a mug, but I know that it had cider in it. Cheryl Spencer says hi. Welcome, Cheryl. Welcome to the show. Emma says Princess of Media to the rescue. Let's hopefully we're going to get. Bear with us, guys. I mean, listen. You know full well that I'm trying to build these two up because these guys know what they're talking about. They've got all the information. It's really weird because when he's in the background, I can see Martin is working absolutely fine. Let me make sure there's nothing I can do my end. There's not. Oh no. See, the beauty of this was we thought he's already there with his lovely lady. In fact, she's just messaged. Angela said, "Good evening, all." Hello, they're there in the paddock in their motorhome, I presume, is what they're doing.
Yeah.
But he's struggling with the Wi-Fi. Oh, we heard noises. It's really weird because he was working fine. I'm assuming that he's still not on the Wi-Fi just yet.
He should be all right because I think he's in the Strawford Centre by the looks of that.
No, I think he's in the media centre.
Oh, is he? Oh, he should be all right there, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Should
absolutely.
be a strong signal. Yeah, it should be a strong signal.
I'm hoping that he is on the Wi-Fi now because Queen M has sent him the password for the Wi-Fi, but we'll have to wait and see whether he's got onto it. He'll be with us soon.
Perhaps whilst we got a few minutes, I mean, I was at the circuit yesterday. We had a track day, which is like a pre-race track day. Although we got what you would call, I suppose, a test day tomorrow, but a lot of the racers were there. Quite a bunch of them were testing yesterday as well, or doing the track day. And we had a really good day, actually. The weather was pretty good. And we did an ACU course yesterday. So we had 12 participants going through their ACU course. So much the same as the ARDS course that you host at the circuit, Chris. Very similar.
Yes, yeah. Which eventually I've got to get myself to actually do the ARDS test, I think, as well. So
I fancy doing one myself.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I've got to speak. Remind me, Rob. I've got to speak to you. I've got a friend of mine who's actually an ex-racer, and he's been an instructor at Silverstone for some while. Right. And they've made some changes over there, and I need to speak to you about the potential for him to get involved with you and your team, because he's a good guy that I've known since I was young. So remind me. I keep meaning to. We've done it live now, so with both of us between us, we'll remember to talk eventually.
Yeah.
Ian Solly is definitely a guy for you to know. Martin, are you with us properly now, or is it still in and out, my friend? That answers that one.
He's gone.
Such a shame. Right. I mean, let's make a start, Rob. Is that so? You've had the good numbers showing up on the day, the testing days and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, this timetable, I've got it up on another tab here. It's packed, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And of course, quite a few of I've just got the sheet in front of me here, the timetable. It's a nightmare for us sometimes commentating because we got multiple classes within one race. As you can see, like the first class there is the Bluebell Lakes Power Bike, and it's the TW Suspension Street Stock 1300, the Live Life and Ride Pre-Injection 1300.
That's easy for you to say.
It's quite a nightmare for us. I don't think we got one with 5 classes in this year like we did last year. The screen looked like a sort of a bowl of Smarties with all the different colours on it, if you know what I mean. But of course, it's difficult to. You can only pick up the front runners, if you get what I mean, Chris, because trying to get all the classes is very difficult to see who's in the lead of which class and which lap and whatever. So we tend to concentrate on who's at the front, who are actually chasing the checker flag, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I have a luxury in the fact that when we have, multiple championships in the same race, it tends to be a bit more obvious. Whereas,
Yeah.
I'd imagine you don't have that luxury, really.
No, because there's a lot of bikes out there, mate. And what I think we could do, we could just go down through the sheet of the classes, and then by then Martin should be with us, and we can go through some of the sort of pre-results and who we think is going to be.
Let me try him again. We just added him here. Hello, Martin. Can you hear us, my friend? Oh, bless him. It all made sense, but yeah, sorry. Carry on then, Rob.
So, I mean, like I say, that is the opening class. Another interesting class we got as a guest class for a few meetings this year. I'm not sure how many. It's not every round, but we got the GP Originals, Chris. Now, the GP Originals are basically, what would you say, 80s, 90s, two-stroke, 250s, 350s, 125s, mainly Yamahas, TZ 250s, 350s, very famous, very successful race bikes. And if I've got all the stats for all the different riders here, and honestly, Chris, you would not believe the amount of experience that is in that class. There's Isle of Man winners, there's Manx winners, there's multiple champions of all different national and club levels. I don't think there's anyone that hasn't got, looking through, there's not anyone on there that hasn't got a great big list of cups next to them, if you know what I mean.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's the key thing, is that there'll be a lot of people that, maybe they are fans and this will be amazing to hear, but then maybe those that are sort of casual watchers that will suddenly go, hang on, this sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So that's the GP Originals.
That is the GP Originals, yeah, and it's coordinated by a young lady, Shan Brooks, who does an absolutely cracking job of keeping it all alive and sorting out sponsorship and one thing and another. But it's my era. TZ 250s, TZ 350s. They're a proper race bikes that you used to buy over the counter from Yamaha. Basically, they come with the spares kit. Obviously, there's factory bikes as well, but a lot of them you could just buy from places like Dennis Trollope. You've heard of Dennis Trollope, haven't you? Dennis Trollope Racing.
I think so, yeah.
And you buy a complete package, basically. You buy the bike, spares. And then, of course, there's modified ones. They change the frames, Spondon, Harris, they all make frames for them. And but yeah, they're what you would call a pucker race bike, mate. They are a pucker race bike.
Pucker race bike. I like that. I like that. They're a pucker race. There's an advert right there. They're going to snap you up for TV, mate. They're a pucker race bike. Salt of the earth, mate. Hence, we've got Helen Edwards, by the way, because it says, "Good evening, Rob Jones."
Good evening, Helen. Yeah.
We've got Martin back again. We've got him in twice, in effect. So let me kick that one. Oh, no, I'll leave him there for now, but let's add. Martin, that looks like you're moving a bit more freely. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, mate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Stuff the iPad. That's going for a walk into one of the bins in the paddock. I'm like Rob now. I'm on the phone.
Yes, it's much better.
It's a lot clearer. I haven't got both of you sounding like Norman Collier. It was just my ears were falling out.
Mate. Well done for your patience and staying calm through all of that, mate. That was brilliant, because I know how stressful it is. I've been there, done it, bought the T-shirt.
Angela's over the other side. Don't you mention the word calm, because I was going, what's going on?
You were like a swan, weren't you? Like, to us, you were all on the front. To Angela, you were like that underneath the water. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, I was well above it. I could hear one of Rob's infamous interviews, which he done down at Brands Hatch. And I'm not going to say who the rider was, because he's only about 30 to 40 yards outside down there. But it was the typical, and I know you've had them as well, Chris, probably in your time. It's the yes, no answer. The worst one I ever had, and I thought this is going to be a piece of cake. I'm going to be interviewing an Australian who is a Grand Prix rider. This was at the NEC at the bike show. And it was a nightmare. I pushed every open question I could dream of in Christendom. This is the first day at the NEC, and I've got 2 Works Kawasaki riders with me, and I'm not saying whose name it was, Anthony West. Terrible stage fright. He had eyes about the size of basically, goldfish bowls. And I went up to the PR man afterwards and I said, "Is he like that all the time?" He said, "Yeah, we've tried everything. It just doesn't work." I said, "You might have told me. I would have put something really daft to him, or sort of like say, what, you're going to race now and next year in a pogo stick or something, just to provoke him." But yeah,
I've had some tricky ones, and I still remember my proudest moment was there was one guy that and invariably they're the nicest guys as well, really, really lovely when they've not got a microphone in front of them. And this guy just sort of like freezes up all the time. And all I did for this one was that I transported him, if you like, almost mentally into where he'd achieved this special thing, and reminding him of the emotions that he will have been feeling and how big a deal it was that he'd just done this. And the next thing, wallop comes the smile, open comes the eyes, and he went, "Chris, you're right, absolutely. I couldn't believe," and then bang, got him, absolutely got him, and got him on the line, and that was like a real proud moment. But you've got to try and get them there, haven't you? That's the challenge.
Yeah, Robbie's very good because he's a chatter. He is a born out and out chatter. You can tell by his antics. He's become infamous on Facebook after racing rather than when racing's been on, because it's a case of, did you hear what he said last night? And we've got pictures to prove it. With himself and Dan Cooper's father, John Cooper, they just sit down. It's like watching a scene from the Muppets. Even we know when it's got to that point where they're talking absolute rubbish, because we see the rest of the team leaving en masse. They're going, "We've had enough of this." But, that's an art he's got at the moment. And
he does, and that backs up what I said to you, Rob, wasn't it? I told you that don't stop that. That is your strength, and it really shows. It is just absolutely wonderful, and it's just so authentic as well, I think, is a key word there.
I think the funny thing was Dan Cooper at Cadwell Park come up to me on the Sunday morning and said, "Here, was you drinking with my old man last night?" Because he comes staggering up through the paddock.
That's why we're safe that you're at home this time, Rob, whereas Martin's the one that's in the blooming paddock. That's the worry. Now his mobile's frozen on us as well. Look. Oh, no.
The thing is that the paddock is so friendly. And since I've been commentating, it's like me going back racing when I knew everyone. And it's great. I can't get 100 yards without stopping and chatting to people. It's absolutely brilliant. And I love every minute of it. So,
Long may that continue. Just quickly, guys, I've had this question come in from Chris Hay. Says, "Is there any big name guests here?"
Well, it's me and Martin.
I didn't like to say. I mean,
he's getting too sharp. That's hanging around with all those old boys. What is it? The West Wilt Vintage Motorcycle Club. Oh, this is the best one.
Yeah.
He said, "I can't come down today. I've paid for me lunch." And I'm like, "Really?"
It's very nice. Faggot and chips.
You couldn't write this, could you?
There's a lot of jokes we could go with there, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. But that does remind me, by the way, is that we have to do a post 9 o'clock show at some point. I've been told we have to do a post 9 o'clock show at some point.
No.
Yeah, definitely. I got some stories. Yeah.
To go back to the question that you threw at us then, I suppose the biggest names we've got down here this weekend, we were hoping to entice a few of the BSB riders in by dangling a carrot in front of them, e.g. the prize money of £8,000, just the King of Combe. And that's split over the 6 races, not just the one race. Or what we're doing this weekend. So, we've got a very, very good prize fund, literally by courtesy of a couple of our very, very good sponsors. That's Steve Caffin of IMS and Adam Jeffrey of Adam Jeffrey Flooring and Phoenix Motorcycles as well. So our biggest names are our biggest names, and that is we're going to have Max Simmons and Bob Collins. Now, they set to it at Brands Hatch last time around, and they were at it hammer and tongs. I kid you not. It really was something to see. It made BSB look like a chimp's tea party, quite honest. Rob was bouncing up and down all over the place because these guys were just absolutely inches apart at times. Max is on the new R1. He has entered in for a few British Superbike rounds in what they call Stock 1000, which is probably more competitive than the BSB itself, because there are something like 45 to 48 bikes trying to qualify for 40 grid positions. And it does become an entire battlefield just in qualifying. Max has qualified. He had his television moment where, unfortunately, he went into the back of a pack of riders. And I looked at this rider on the floor because I didn't see the bike properly. And I thought, I recognise that lanky walking. Yes, it was Max. And yes, he is okay. Bob Collins, he is just a legend in his own lunchtime. He can ride the Honda Fireblade. He rides it what I would term as very loose. Everything is moving around. The back wheel's off the deck. He's swinging around all over the place. He just rides it, I would say, as if he doesn't know what's going on with the bike, but he certainly does.
Oh, he knows.
He made an absolute decision at Brands Hatch. He'd come off in the second race, gone over in the gravel fairly heavily. The team put his bike back together again, and him, and got him out for the third race. Now, this was with Max in there as well. The weather conditions were marginal. The track was still damp, and it was at the end of the day, so it was cold. They made a gamble on tyres. Everybody else was out on wets. He went out on intermediates. So the guys on wets all streaked off at the front. He was sitting around about fourth, fifth place, and we could see that he was being so gentle, and he was picking the bike up in corners. So if you think if you're coming off the gas, Chris, on the car, and you're sort of like you're basically nursing it around, he was doing the same with the bike. So instead of having the bike canted right over, he was keeping it up until he got the tyre temperature up. And then he was gone. The intermediates came in. It's the black art of tyres. Are they warm? Are they cold, etc.? Streaked away, won that race. So he is definitely one to watch. Also, I reckon 2 600 riders. George Edwards, our current champion in the 600s, and Ricky Elder, who has stepped down from his BMW and is really on form with this little R6 Yamaha. Now, they won't have the out-and-out horsepower. It'll be a David and Goliath battle, but he was riding like an absolute man possessed. He found his mojo again, I think, is the best thing at Brands Hatch. And he wandered off into a race and had something like one race win with 11 seconds and another one with 8 seconds back to second place. And round the Brands Hatch short circuit, that is going some, because you only get about 3 to 4 laps clear before you're starting to weave your way through traffic. So pretty much we've got the people that I want here, along with, dare I say it, full grids of almost everything. I'm sitting here with piles and piles of paperwork, which I've sent to Rob and sent him into for like anaphylactic shock, because he thinks he's going to have to read all this. But I've got some cracking stuff.
I think it's burnt me printer out, actually.
Hey, I know that feeling. It never changes. It never changes. I mean, the other one being is that, Rob, earlier you were saying in those GP originals is that is just wall-to-wall names in reality.
There's a lot of them. They've all, the majority of them, this Martin backed me up. They've been racing for years. I mean, Nick Williamson, I can remember him racing a 750 Suzuki, I think it was, back in about 90, when would that have been? Early 90s, when I used to spanner for Neil Crooks, a friend of mine. And he had a little layoff and went car racing, if I do believe. And has come back. And I mean, he's a very accomplished racer, and he can jump on a little, 352 stroke, and jump off of that and jump onto a 1000cc twin cylinder 4-stroke. And mate, you cannot get 2 bikes further apart, a different characteristics, and go out and win on them. So, again, another very, very accomplished rider. But like I said earlier on, Chris, if you look at the sheet I've got in front of me, there is so much talent there. Seconds, thirds, first at the Isle of Man, Scarborough, Triumph Triple Challenge, South African Championship. It's something else, mate. It really is something else.
Yeah,
And I guess that's one of the things you guys are going to, you know, this is just emphasised to people watching. This is why it's good that these guys are the commentary team at the circuit for the weekend, is that people that get there might not necessarily appreciate that, whether they vaguely recognise the name or even if they don't, is that these are the stories that you guys will be bringing to life over the course of the weekend as well.
Yeah, it's very much this way because you know, because you do Castle Combe and you're virtually here all the time, and you've got all the clubs that basically turn up here for all the yeah, fine, got that. Somebody's just poked a message under my nose. Don't say that. Did that come from the Princess of Media? Yes, it did. We're being watched already.
Did we say something wrong? Was that me?
No, that's me. That's the warning shot. Don't say that yet. Yeah, I won't, but I'm not going to tell Rob because he will. We're looking at people that we see every race meeting. So when we do our recce of the paddock, as you do, it's time. It's a time and tested. You don't come in and you don't get huge amounts of paperwork in front of you. Rob will probably attest to it being different, but we know these people. We know them from X, Y, Z. However long they've raced. Rob will, because he's more old and decrepit than I am by about a year. We're just trying to work out on the. Actually, somebody turned up for your track walk today, and we looked at him and said, "You're a day early." So that's how good your track walks are.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
I think we had 50 people last year.
Yeah, somebody said you should do it Facebook Live, but I said no. I don't want to hear about every corner that Rob's fallen off on. The GP originals, you read down the list, and the first one you see is number 1, Philip Atkinson, ACU 250 champion. He was in the Ducati Kai Options Cup. He's been South African champion. He's endurance raced for, I think it was phase 1. 125s. He's raced in the Classic Motorcycle Racing Club with all sorts of things. He has won the 250 championship on one of the GP original bikes. So he was racing an LDTZs against the 250 GP bikes, which had slicks, and all he could have was cut tyres. You know, that's just one rider. Nick Williamson, we've said, we've known Nick for quite a few years now. I'm glad he's not listening, but he can jump from bike to bike. It's like racing a Caterham and then jumping into a GT car, if I can relate that to you, Chris. Yeah. You know, lightweight and flips around all over the place, and then all of a sudden you're in some hairy great V8, which will basically just try and power yourself out. So yeah, the GP Originals is bikes which were campaigned back in the days when 250s and 350s Yamahas basically ruled the world. You could get hold of one of those, throw it into a transit van with a set of spanners and a gas burner in there as well, and go anywhere you like in the world and race it, because they were that friendly to race. They used to see them. They used to fill up Grand Prix circuits left, right and centre. And then other people got hold of them. They made different frames for them, and Manxton frames. There, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. Rob knows probably more frames than I do in my life.
Yeah, Manxton, Harris, Spondon.
Yeah. So we've got all those here. They're filling the paddock up already.
Wigwam, Uber frames, and Zipper Zops.
Here's a good example. Jason Davis. Now, Martin will know Jason Davis. Here we are. Look. 2 wildcard rides at the British GP, 4th in the British Superbike Championship. You know, this is real. You know, there's a lot of talent there, mate. A lot of talent.
There's always been a popularity of tackling Combe on a bike. It seems to me.
It is still, even with 3 chicanes in it, Chris. It is still one of the quickest circuits, bar the one up the road, which begins with T, and that's for Emma's benefit. That basically you can absolutely throw a bike round here, and it gets to some stupid speed. If we haven't got Bybrook chicane, I dread to think what the speed would be coming down.
And that actually, I've got to make an admission here. I was like going, "What are you on about, Martin? 3 chicanes," and I forgot that they put Bybrook in there. But in all honesty, it's no surprise, is it? I always make the comment when I'm hosting the Castle Combe Racing School, is that I show them that the bit of tarmac that goes onto the infield, and we say the problem is the bikes were back up to full speed by camp again. Which kind
Absolutely.
of defeated the object of you know, the S's. You know, it was, the whole idea was to get control of Bobby. Sorry, was to get control of it.
Yeah, the acceleration has now gone up so hugely. I mean, you could probably run an elderly street bike out of there, and you'd be thinking about changing up to top, thinking about it. But you run one of these bikes, admittedly, they're not full house GP race tune bikes, but they are pretty quick. You're looking at a Yamaha R6, it's coming out at something like about 140 odd brake horsepower, and maybe sort of like going through to 160 odd. And you will be up in top gear and you will be accelerating, and you'll look up and all of a sudden you will find you've got Camp Corner there. You know, we'd have to put catch fencing in at the scrutineering to get there. You really would. It's quite mindless. I mean, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, let's put somebody out there and take out the chicanes." No, let's not do it. It will become scary. It will become desperately scary.
Just a quick question, Martin, for you, because Emma's put this one there. What's in the cup, Martin?
What's in it? Coffee. Coffee. I am. You can have my share. I am strictly. I'm on an alcohol ban. Not for an ASBO or anything else like that. This is for medical reasons.
Me too. Me too.
Oh yeah.
I haven't got the current Mrs. Dawes here to fill me up. She's out at the moment, so I've actually got my stock up here to just refill. All I don't have is ice cubes to add to it, so I'm going back to my uni days of it being mildly warm. Right, as you were.
Is this going to be the introduction to the after 9 o'clock show? Is it?
Yeah.
My name's Chris Dawes, and I'm.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. You've watched enough Combe TVs to know how it goes. Cheers, gin.
Yeah.
What Martin was. Oh, sorry. Go on, Martin.
Go on, you go, mate.
I say what Martin was saying about you know, coming out of Camp Corner. I mean, I did it on the solo on the track the day before the chicane was in. But even nowadays, at my age, you know, get like me, you're going through Folly on my S1000, and I'm short shifting top, and I'm hitting sort of just under 150.
Jesus.
It's absolutely awesome. I mean, anyone who says going through Folly flat out, don't make the air stand up on the back of your neck is not alive, I'm afraid.
Because presumably, actually, that Bybrook chicane is a double safety impact, because we've obviously just talked about camp, but the point being is it will mean you're still not up to the same chat you would be at Folly if Bybrook wasn't there. You'd probably be even higher at Folly, wouldn't you?
Coming out of camp how it used to be, I mean, you were carrying so much speed coming out of there. And you know, obviously, well, I don't know. I mean, they say John McGuinness is hitting 180 at the moment, going up over towards Avon Rise. But, you know, these new bikes now, easily, you know, that would be quite normal.
Well, it brings me back to the infamous when we stuck you in the box over the other side on that Sunday. That was your first go. And we had the infamous Willis Compton falling out, going up past me. Now, you know, Chris, that there is a hole in the wall where basically the start line crew go out onto the grid. When these two idiots came past me, and there is no polite way to say it, but two idiots came past side by side, one on a 1200 Panigale, the other one on a big Aprilia, literally riding each other's bikes. They were that close, and they went past that wall. Paul Willis notched up another gear, and the wheel on the Aprilia shot up in the air by about a foot, and they were accelerating up there. Mark Compton got it all completely wrong, missed his apex, got onto the grass, came onto the outside, wiped out Willis, and I was expecting absolute mayhem. I thought, right, where's my notes? We're in for a big red one here. It was a red flag, but I saw two guys standing up, wandering around, collecting their bits of bikes. And I said to Rob, because obviously I knew he'd run the course, I said, how fast is it through there, roughly speaking? When he said 160, 165 miles an hour, I was aghast. And these aren't bikes, like I say, these are not GP bikes. These are something that has come from the showroom. The Panigale, well, it just fell to pieces. There wasn't anything you could do with it. But that gives you an idea of how quick this circuit is. It really is desperately quick. I know everybody says that Thruxton is the quickest place, but this is quick with technical as well. Because you've got the 3 chicanes in it, because you've got Old Paddock and you've got Tower as well, and the infamous Quarry Corner, which you and me both love because we both sat down there and watched cars.
And camp itself, let's not lose sight. Camp is an amazing place to see, isn't it?
It is. You know, you get it on a good day, and the speed is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And it's not just the big bikes. We had some absolutely fantastic races at Brands Hatch with packed grids, certainly down with the Ducatis and the Mini Twins. You couldn't believe it. There was something like about 6 to 8 guys all fighting for first place for, what was it, 12 laps. They were all over each other like a rash. And that was the last race on the program. We were thinking, oh, we'll just dial down from here and then we can go home. Not a chance, not a hope in hell. I'm going to bring up something, and this is a little story that came out. In the Formula 400, there's a guy by the name of Harley Godses. He is planning to do, through the year, something like 73, 74 races. Now, I've got to go and question this guy and find out his level of sanity, because he's racing a VFR 400 Honda. And if he plans to do that, I'm not sure how he's getting the budget, or whether he's got bank jobs or whether he's just getting funded or whatever. I'm going to have to go and find. There's a story around here because he's literally out every weekend racing his bike somewhere, and he's going to do all our rounds. So that's 7 taken care of for starters, isn't there? It's, only another 60 odd to go. But, this is the dedication that some of these guys have got. This is, Formula 400 is not big money. You'll get your pot for finishing first, second and third, etc. But they are filling the grid up and they're out with the Suzuki Bandits. Rob knows, I've given him loads and loads of paperwork. We're sort of like, there's a small forest that disappeared. But this is the entry list for the King of Combe. Now, that is me trying to make it readable for me when I'm up in the box without the glasses. So, we've got full grids throughout, and, you'll get free practice in the morning from 9 o'clock. Then we will go to qualifying, which will last us through until dinner time. And then the lunch break, 10 races the first day, 20 races the second day. We can't cram any more in as much as we'd like to. But, we are going to have a very, very full meeting, and we do basically push these races out like somebody shelling peas. You don't really have a lot of time to breathe. I mean, we'd love to do the winner's car and something else like that. I think we'll only be able to do 2 podiums amongst all that lot, which will involve me running downstairs like an idiot and trying not to trip over my own feet, going down to the podium, doing the interview while Rob's doing the lap of the next race, the first lap, while I come upstairs, and then I sound as though I've sort of like I'm about to expire.
See, this is why you need to have me up there doing the interviews one year. Come on, guys.
Well, look, I've tried to entice you, but then you're always busy.
Do you know what? The irony is that I'm not, although I've got a very special weekend this weekend. I'm not working, and I'm taking my dad to watch British touring cars at Donington Park, and I haven't had a dad and lad spectator day since before I started commentating 12 years ago, so I cannot wait for that. It's very special. But I'm dead keen because I adore the motor racing. It's like it's a whole other level for me. I cannot work you guys out. You're bonkers. It's as simple as that. And I was thinking this when we were explaining the need for Bybrook chicane. I can't remember why I was able to catch it. Anyway, I saw the MotoGP, it's because it was quite late, wasn't it, on Sunday? So it was on after I got back from Silverstone, and I flicked it on Circuit of the Americas. They were going down like Skittles, and these are some of the best riders in the world, bar none. And it was catching them out. So it's the thing with the bikes is that it's going to catch you out.
200 and plus horsepower. We don't know what the actual figures are. They won't tell us. They keep it very close to their chest. But you're looking around about, I would say, I don't know what you think, Rob. You're certainly talking 225 and then upwards, I reckon.
What, GP bikes?
GP bikes.
240, some of them, I think.
Really?
Yeah,
I think they're getting up round two. In fact, at one time, the Ducatis, they used to tame them down with electronics.
They still do. When they do a practice start, they've got to press the button, otherwise it will flip them. It will turn them.
And what was this? And apologies, and I apologise for those watching. You'll think this is all awful from me, but these are the guys, the experts on two wheels. I'm just one of those guys that watches and just in awe and loves it, but I don't have the knowledge like I do with the car racing. Although people question that about me as well, to be honest. But I was watching it, and suddenly on some of them, they had these sort of like bits on behind the saddle.
Oh, don't go there.
Yeah, aeros. Yeah, it's all the new aero stuff.
Right. Yeah. We're getting to the aero stage now. It's not just punching a hole in the air, right? If you look at the front closely, we started to see, what was it, about 2 years ago, I think. Little wings appearing, and they will be appearing on production bikes. The Aprilia looks like a hammerhead shark.
Yep.
It's, as I call it, it's sort of pretty in an ugly sort of way. That's got that. The Yamahas have got some other things, not as much. But all of a sudden, these little appendages have appeared on the back. There was two that looked like the back of an F.
It looked like exhaust, didn't it? It looked like extra exhaust behind the saddle, didn't it?
Yeah. It's supposed to be aero. I doubt it.
I think it's a device to split up the air when the rider breaks wind when he's going down the straight.
Yeah, like I got To be honest, on that circuit as well, is that there would have been a lot of passing wind. Just quickly catching up with another couple of comments that have come in. Neil Edwards says, "Good evening, everyone. Let's hope for a good, safe weekend for everyone at Combe this weekend."
Absolutely. Brilliant. Yeah,
lovely comment. Yeah. Mike Cotton, good to hear from you, my friend. I haven't heard from you for a little while. Hopefully that means you'll be on the show next Thursday when we're previewing Mayday Madness as well. He says, missing this race meeting, family commitments, give me a chance to properly dry out after Howard's Day. Yes, you dodged that bullet, Martin, didn't you? You really did.
Where I'm parked at the moment, the ground is still very soft out there.
I'm not surprised. I'm not, and that's everywhere because we've had race meetings 2 weeks ago and the week before that. I was at Donington Park, and certainly 3 weeks ago when it was the GT Cup guys were there. As soon as you stepped onto the grass, they were literally going down in the mud. It was that bad just off circuit. It was awful. Yeah. So, yes, I understand about you drying out there, but I hope you're going to be back for Mayday Madness, Mike. It'd be good to see you there. So my point being with those guys is that those bikes, I watched it. I don't normally get to because, as you know, I'm commentating here, there, or everywhere. But because it was after, I was very popular with Mrs. Dawes because I got home and went, I'm going to put motor racing on while I'm watching my while I'm eating my dinner, and she was delighted, and she gave me a hug and said, "You're special," all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we say that about you too.
yeah, exactly. But it was amazing to just watch this, but to see that they were struggling, and apparently they'd been struggling all weekend, whether the temperature was too high, too low, all these places, and so therefore it puts in perspective. And Rob, I come to you because, of course, you instruct. You get people their licenses, is that it doesn't just come down to how good you are. The even the best are making these quite big mistakes as well.
Yeah, it's got very technical now, mate. Especially at the higher level stuff. Back when I started, mate, a pair of tires will last you about 3 meters, and then when they started wearing out, you turn them around and run the other way. But tire selection is important. the top riders at our club, they're probably sticking a new rear in every race.
Wow.
If you want to, just to get that little edge, and again with suspension setups, you know, even some of the bikes in our club have got full data login. You know, they're coming in and downloading all. And Ricky Elder's got that, Andy Martin, full data login.
He's the boy. He's the boy. I've seen him go along, and basically someone will come and say, can you do something with this? And he'll pick up the software and he'll go along, plug his computer in and go as they do, and all of a sudden he changes the character of the bike.
What does he do, Martin?
It goes
Oh, okay. As long as it's not diddly diddly do, I find that doesn't work. Diddly diddly D is okay.
Yeah, and then to start it, you have to do Control Alt Delete, as you know.
Yeah,
of course. Obviously, that goes without saying. To be fair,
My data login was a cable tie around the fork leg to see how far what fork travel you used.
Wow! Yeah. I love that. Just incidentally, by the way, Emma said she's going to be having serious words with Howard. She's going to be having words with her dad to make sure that the weather's all good, for sure.
Brilliant.
Just to go back on something you said, Chris,
yes,
with the GP bikes, right? We used to say that the contact patch on a rear end of a Grand Prix motorcycle bike is about the size of a credit card. Where all these guys are going, they are leaning the bike so far over now to try and keep that contact.
Ooh.
That was just getting interesting then as well. Where's it gone?
Yeah.
Oh, do that again. So just as they were leaning over.
What, you want to see if I can knock the Wi-Fi out again? As they lean over, see, when it comes down to Rob, you see he'd fall. But what they do now is it's all this body weight off the side so they can keep the bike upright and keep it on the contact patch. But when you're running at the speeds they do into corners and what have you, you're coming on the edge of the tyre.
Yeah.
So you're coming off the contact patch and you're coming on, because these tyres they're almost a crescent shape. If you look at them closely, the wheel is about that wide, the tyre is about that wide, and it comes back in on itself. So they can keep as much rubber on the ground as is humanly possible. When they go over to the side and these things kick in, and all of a sudden you chime in and you've got 170 to 180 brake horsepower going through the back end, off you go into the gravel. And you know that is the edge they're running on. It's almost as close, if not closer, than Formula One cars run on the edge with all the non-ground effect and aero and stuff that happens. I've never seen so many sparks come off the bottom of an F1 car of late. But no, this is how they're running. They do have huge electronic packages. They have adjustable suspension, which you come in left, right, and centre. It is still a dark art, and these things are just phenomenal. I find technicalities of it absolutely mind-blowing.
I was ecstatic with when I had it on Sunday night. My 11-year-old daughter was still up because obviously I'd been away working all weekend, so she made a point of staying up with me while I was having dinner and watching MotoGP. And she turned to me, she said, "That makes no sense with gravity and physics, Dad." At 11. At 11, I was like, "Oh, I'm so proud right now." But a weird sort of like side note is that what I was loving is that they were making, the commentators were getting really excited. Forgive me, I've forgotten the guy that won it, but it was a very popular victory, wasn't it? Yamaha dude.
I'm trying to remember myself. I've
forgotten his name now. I think it begins with F, but they were saying about the fact that he's now suddenly riding in a whole new way. He was dropping his elbow out and down a long way, and they're like going, he's not done that before, and it was totally new for him.
Yes, he's had to alter his riding style because he's changed his machine. It was one of the Suzuki rides. I think it was Rins, wasn't it, Rob?
Yes.
I think it was,
Yeah, because he's changed to a different factory. The Suzuki factory has basically stopped racing across the board. It's like grabbing hold of Red Bull and saying, right, we're not going to race anymore. Thank you very much. We're going home. So he's had to find another ride. He's riding a Honda now.
Right.
So he's had to adapt to the style of that bike. You go from bike to bike. It's like driving a car. You never drive the same car. So yeah, he's had to alter his riding style to get the best out of that bike.
So and there lies my key point where I was coming to. And by the way, some of you might be watching going, what's this got to do with the weekend? Everything, because it's about the incredibleness of the bike racing for me. And I think that these are important things for me to be sort of like talking about, is that you're talking about guys that are jumping on these big powerful things, these little things. I mean, Rob, you were saying someone in particular, forgive me, I've forgotten who you were referring to, that's suddenly jumping on these big,
yeah,
and
Nick
then these little things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
It isn't just like jumping into another car. It is totally different riding styles.
Oh yeah, it is completely different. Yeah, it is completely different. You completely ride the bike. I'll give you an example. I mean, back in when I was racing, I raced 600s. 600s all about corner speed. You can carry quite a lot of corner speed into the corner, and you can get very good drive very early from the apex.
Yeah.
When you go to a big 1000cc bike, you got to change your style, because okay, you can carry some speed in, but you got to stand the thing up to drive it out the corners, otherwise it'll spit you off.
Okay, yeah.
And for me, I actually got on better with smaller capacity bikes, because I couldn't get the hang of this standing up and trying to launch the back corners, and I lost a lot of time doing that. And that's my excuse anyway, before anyone says. But but yeah, it's just an example that you go. I went from 4-cylinder bikes to 2-cylinder Ducatis. That it's just a whole different. You have to relearn how to ride the bike, basically.
Well, and apologies if this is a stupid question, is that we've been talking about how technology's gone on. However, we could be talking about bikes from yesteryear that are rightly still being raced, because that's what's lovely about this weekend, is that we've got like a whole different generations of racing machinery out there. But are those machinery from yesteryear, and however long ago that happens to be, that could be 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, even more. Does the technology for racing those still develop, or are they absolutely sealed in time?
I don't know. The trouble is, there's a lot of arguments about technology. You get a lot of people arguing that, people win races at, say, World Superbikes because they got the best technicians working on their traction control and all that. A good rider doesn't need. I'll throw this one in. I suppose I'll upset a few people, but a good rider doesn't need all that. He can do it with a bit of that and a bit of that. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether all this electronic stuff is the way, really. I think it takes a little bit of the onus away from the rider.
It's a tricky one. It's the same on four wheels, isn't it? We got it the same on four, and whether it's F1, whether it's GT racing, and I mean, it's a weird dichotomy, isn't it?
You watch a Grand Prix, but they get to the apex of the corner and they just literally go to the stop, and the traction sort it out. A good example of that a few years ago was Danny Petroza. Someone went in the back of him and knocked his sensor off the swinging arm. And he came to the next corner and nailed it, and he just went skyward. He just got launched into space, because he just spat him straight off. So,
isn't that why these amazing riders that are on these amazing modern machinery still love to come and race the historic stuff as well?
Yes, I think it is, mate. Yeah, I think it is.
Because that gets them back to their roots, back to the pure skill. You've just said about that they can, I feel like I'm shaking coffee beans there, but you know what I mean. It gets them back.
It's a mixture of in there and that.
Absolutely. Just quickly, by the way, Emma Strawford says, can we wish Shelley Pike, one of our bike instructors, a very happy birthday for race day eve, please? So that's tomorrow.
Yes, happy birthday, Shelley.
Thanks
for the cake yesterday.
Oh, I see. It's like that, is it?
Yeah. Well, it was Neil's birthday yesterday, but Shelley is she's our resident Miss Kipling. She makes exceedingly good cakes.
Exceedingly good.
And we always have a bit of cake after our track days, which is our sort of usual thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just quickly, a very quick shout out to those that are liking and loving this show. Thank you. Please keep the comments, the questions, the likes, the loves, everything coming in. We got a love from Digger Wright, so welcome to the show. Frank Donachie, Tondere Mazonda. Apologies if I butchered that. Julie Jackson Stevens and Mike Hand. Welcome, guys. Will Nola says, there a chance to see the entry list? You guys teased us. The answer is it's not up publicly yet, is it? I don't think.
No, it's not.
No.
This is our little, dare I say it, I get it.
It's a great big pad here.
I get the pre-race names and numbers, so it gives me a clue, and so it confuses Rob. It should give him a clue, and I've got more paperwork for you tomorrow, mate.
Thanks.
We haven't got it, but look, I can tell you, right. Phoenix Open, that's one sheet. Bandits and 400s, that's another sheet. So you're looking at something in the region, the GP Originals, the ACU 125 and 250 National Championship. That's the biggie. That's a British Championship, which we still run for the two-stroke bikes, the more modern two-stroke bikes, but even they're getting long in the tooth. So we've got something in the region. All right, let me go down to the bargain basement, as I call it. They won't hate me for that. Right? This is the Ducatis. And the Desmos. In fact, I've got a guy here on the end. Jamie Crawford. Does that ring any bells, Rob?
Yeah, he's a local boy to me in Radstock. He's another chap from sunny Radstock.
He's not a Radstock Rocket, though, is he? Come
no,
on.
No.
There's only one.
You've got her in the Radstock Rocket name, mate.
So yeah, I kid you not. I mean, I've managed to snaffle a program already, which is absolutely great. We've gone a full colour and what have you, but we have got
that word, that snaffle. That's
I know.
that's a new one.
I like that.
I'm sorry, I'm getting old. There we go. Look, we've got.
See, Will, in answer to your question, look, they're showing you the entry list. They're still teasing you, I admit, but they're showing you, mate.
Look, depending on where he is, and if we can get a printer, we'll run him one off so he can do his homework all the way through tonight. Chris, if you want to get, just going back to what we were talking about with technology and what have you, if ever you get a chance to watch any film or anything on the television about the days of the 500 two-strokes.
Oh.
Now, right, the
my word, you just got poor old Rob excited there.
Yeah, I know. I think he was having a turn.
It was a moment there.
Yeah, you go and watch the likes of Wayne Rainey, Kevin Swans, Kenny Roberts, etc. Ride those things. I can remember vividly watching a Grand Prix from Donington. Kevin Schwantz was in the lead, riding the 500 Suzuki, an RG 500. This was done up in the Pepsi colours, Rob. He came out of, what is it? I think it's Coppice, the last corner.
Goddard's.
No. The last corner.
Oh, the last main one. Yeah, before the straight. Yeah.
So
Coppice,
coming out of there, going down the straight, he had the bike drifting, spinning the wheel up, leaving a big black mark on the tarmac, which I think Tom Wheatcroft would have seen and said, "Get that man off the track." He was spinning the tyre up, and he was also looking over his right shoulder to find out where the opposition was coming from. And I just sat there and I thought, no, I couldn't. There was me thinking I could ride bikes, and I thought, no way can I do that. And that's how they used to ride these things. They were absolute weapons. When they were good, they were very, very good. When they were bad, they were absolutely nasty. They used to spit you off to the horizon, left, right, and centre. Go and see some of that and be very scared. But go on, Rob.
They were known as widowmakers.
Yes, they were. Absolutely. But that's how far we've come. Yeah. That was all about rider control. There was no electronics with it. It was all about what you were putting through onto the right hand through the throttle and controlling it that way. And people had a style of riding these things where they would put weight onto opposite sides of the pegs to make the bike move around and not take too much of their body off. They weren't leaning to weird angles like you see now, but they were controlling the bike and the tyre technology. Then there was still a tyre war going on between, I think, Michelin, Dunlop, and I don't think Bridgestone had entered the fray. But
that was in the days when I can remember some riders were running what they called Michelops. So they were running a Michelin on the front, say, and a Dunlop on the rear. Yeah, that was right. That was before there was real serious, when the manufacturers come in and said, "Hey, we ain't having this." You're either working for Michelin or Dunlop, But I always remember. I can't remember the rider, but there was quite a number of riders, and they were riding on what they used to say Michelops, because he had a Dunlop say on the back and a Michelin on the front.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
But,
bad. That is
I
bad.
mean,
Yeah.
we won't ever see that again. But what we've got here this weekend.
They still do it where they'll ride the different compounds front and
Yeah.
back, don't they?
Yes, we can mix them up. If you get it's like in different conditions, say you've had a shower of rain, but if the wind's blowing across the track like it does here in the Brands Hatch, it will clear up and you will get a dry line. Some people are very, very cute. They'll go out on what they call an intermediate tyre, which is basically a slick with cuts in it. Or they'll mix it up. They'll put a wet on the front and they'll put a dry on the back because you need more front grip.
Yeah,
if you lose the front, you're gone. You can lose the back as many times as you like. You can bring that one back, unless your name's Rob Jones. But no, there is still this, and you'll see people popping out of their awnings like cuckoo clocks if the weather gets a little bit grey and it spits with rain and what have you. Some people will go, look, it's either going to be wet or it's going to be dry. They hate the in between. They hate what they call the intermediate, or especially if they're going around and they get what they call, you get it sort of like just drizzling when they're going round, but the track is warm enough not to let the rain settle, and it's called, what is it they call it? Psychological
rain.
Yeah,
when you've got the spots on your visor. Yeah.
But
one of the advantages now with like all the big classes and even at clubs is controlling the tires. So MotoGP's all on Michelin. The other classes, I think it's Moto2's on Dunlop, but they're all on the same tire. So there's no, like in the day when they used to actually manufacture a certain front for a certain rider, now, and it's brought the racing closer together because they're all on the same stuff, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's cost as well, because the Ducati Desmos, they all run on Dunlops. Everybody's running on the same tyres. The same with the Suzuki Bandits; they all run on the same make of tyre. So it evens out the playing field and also keeps the costs down as well. If they've got a manufacturer that will come along and say, yes, we're going to do this. In BFB, almost everything is Pirelli apart from the smaller classes.
Excuse me a minute, chaps. I just got to take 2 minutes.
Oh, that old chestnut.
Yeah, here we go.
It's age. To be fair, I was getting near to that where I'm going to have to go to the toilet as well. Martin, actually, I'll tell you what, we'll do it properly. Let's put him back there so we're not embarrassing the poor boy. Martin, right, let's now make this focus then about the weekend. I think it's brilliant, and we'll do this again leading into the Wednesday, because there's 2 Grand National events.
July. Yeah, it's the last.
It's called the April Grand National and the July Grand National, and we'll do another show leading into that. And I just love that we're getting into the bikes because it's just an amazing. One thing I know we want to focus on is you want to really talk about the Grand National.
Yeah, the King of Combe
King of Combe. Sorry, mate.
No, it's not a problem. It's as it's traditionally been known. Now, the King of Combe was normally run over 3 legs. 1 on the Saturday, two on a Sunday. We've now come up with this. We've got 2 meetings here. We can run it over 6 legs. So the aggregate score over the 6 races is going to count, which means that it's going to open it up a bit more. If you have a bad one, say like if you have a DNF or you finish back in, say, 10th or 11th position, you can still work your way up to good points, as it were. So last year it was Max Simmons. He comes in as the reigning King of Combe. He won all 3 races. So by the time you get to the second race, it's almost a foregone conclusion if you know that you can come around. So this has opened it up quite substantially. It'll be interesting once we've done this weekend to see if anybody else is going to come into the fray for the July meeting, because there is this pot of money up, which is unprecedented for club racing, I believe. Just for that. So the winner over the 6 legs, that's £2,000 in the piggy bank, and then it runs down to 1,300 for second and 1,000 for third. But then afterwards, from 4th place down to 10th place, there is money being awarded for that. So it's not all about the top 3; it's about who can basically stay the course. So somebody out there on, say, a 600 who's putting in some decent finishes could end up with a decent amount of money from it. So we're into that situation. Is it going to tempt anybody out of the woodwork, maybe from, I don't know, the higher form of sport, maybe BSB from stock riders or what have you? We don't know at the moment. We were hoping we could get a couple through to us, but not at the moment. But it's going to be very interesting. And if you can look at it, somebody who is consistent could be over and out winner. If you go out and you win it, bin it, your points are going to sort of like drop away. If you've got somebody that can come in and just keep the consistency rolling over and over,
of course,
you could be in with it as well. So you don't have to have the biggest toys to win. It sort of helps a bit, but you don't have to have the biggest toy in the book. But no,
you don't want the boom. You don't want the boom bust, do you? That's the key.
No.
But how are you guys able? Apologies for the ignorance here. How are you guys able to keep abreast of how that's taking shape, or do you not know until someone says there's the winner of the King of Combe?
We will be working with, obviously, you work with TSL. We're working with TSL this year, so we will know through, and I will have my secretary working on this, who doesn't know this yet. We'll be looking and we're going, right, these are the results. So we'll start piecing together results as we're going along through the weekend, and then we'll get to the end of the weekend and we'll go, right, this is what they are. So when it comes around to the next 3 races, we'll go, right, he's got to score this, that, and the other, and he's going to score this. So we'll be doing the maths. We'll need a Carol Vorderman along here somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. But is it from certain races?
It is from the one race, which is which we call the our Phoenix Open race, which will lead to our overall Open class champion. But for these 2 meetings, it's run as the King of Combe. So you're scoring points.
Okay, so I see it for people when they're looking at the timetable. It says Phoenix Open King of Combe. So you know always that is the ones that score in the points, as well as the outright races in each race. It's towards the King of Combe.
That's correct. Yeah, it's like having your feature race. This is our feature race for this weekend and for the weekend in July as well. And with that, we've built all around it as well.
I mean, for the front runners of the big bucks, Martin, it's got to be Max and Bob Collins. Chris Pope, he's always there, isn't he? Chris Pope, he's always up there, and he's always chomping at the back of them, isn't he? So, but the one that I'm always impressed with, mate, is the boys on the 600s. Now, you watch what George Edwards and Ricky Elder are going to do on 600s, mine. They're giving away probably 60 horsepower
and more, I reckon.
And if what is incredible about those boys is their corner speed. And when I'm over in that other box over the other side, that's why Martin, he says to me, you don't have to get excited, don't you? But when you see them come through Oak Paddock and they're absolutely nailing the blooming things, and it's incredible. Massive lean angle. They're the ones I always admire, to be honest, is those 600s trying to stay with those thousands.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I think, I don't know whether you agree, Chris. I think the number 2 box is probably the better place to be quite honest. Because all right, you see all the fun and games at the start and the finish, and you get the run up to Quarry, but you get the run out of Quarry, and you get them through Old Paddock, and then through there, and then down to Tower.
Absolutely.
One of the things that people...
Rob,
sorry, mate,
before you do that bit, but to tell and to upset Martin even more, it's even better now because they've cut the trees back. You can see Tower.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, brilliant. Because you do lose them as they're going down there.
Not anymore.
What I was going to say is that we were talking earlier on about the speed through, coming out of camp and going through Folly. What a lot of people don't realise is the speed you get down through Hammerdown into Tower, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
It isn't on the big bikes. It isn't far off what you're doing along towards going through Folly, mate.
And to put this in perspective, this was a problem we had on Howard's Day, is that when the saloons went out, when the rain happened to be its absolute worst, is that they had a river going across the circuit at Hammerdown.
Yeah, there always is there.
That's not
Yeah.
safe at that speed where you're still booting it in, and that kind of puts in perspective. No, so you're absolutely right. Hammer down is a big, big deal.
Yeah.
And on bikes, it's got to be even more incredible because they're going to have to be leaning.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a wet race there. I think, God bless him. I think Les is he dug a bit of a trench there to try and get rid of the water off the side. But I remember doing a wet race there a few years ago, not long after the circuit was resurfaced, and every time you went down through there, the front twitched as you went across it, and it made something else twitch as well. But
Yeah.
but it did it. It did it every lap, you know. You think I got every time you went in the tower, you think I got away with it that time, you know. But but yeah, you're right, and you are carrying a lot of speed down into the breaks into tower. You're carrying a lot of speed.
Is it like a double apex through tower for you guys on the bike?
No, it's a very late turn in. Well, I wouldn't say unique to Combe, but the corners are late turn. Quarry is a late turn in on the bike. You got to square it off.
Yes.
Otherwise you can be lent over forever and a day. And the same at tower, you got to turn in late and square it off and launch it out.
And in fact, when you talk,
I never learned to do it.
Oh, really? But when you talk about quarry as well, is it the same on the bikes as on the cars? Because normally, of course, you're trying to be over to the left to be able to straight it as much as possible. But over Avon Rise, you tend to aim for the middle rather than the left.
What we always say is you to be honest, when you're carrying a lot of speed, as you come across the apex of Avon Rise, you can't help but put yourself towards the centre of the circuit. And we always tell people on our track days, and it's always worked for me and everyone else I know, is you aim for the traffic lights that's up on the bank. Yes. And you turn in late, and to be honest, the cone what we put out for the track days for the apex, it doesn't matter if you actually apex a little bit earlier, because you just carry the curb round to pass that cone and then let it drift out, if you see what I mean. And you can, you know, if you're trying to dive up the inside of people, you can go. You'd be surprised how tight you can go round quarry on a bike. Really. Obviously you lose a lot of speed, but you're holding up the people. Yeah, if you get me drift. Yeah.
I love this one, in fairness, and I wouldn't change it. Martin, I wish you luck keeping Rocket under control. You don't keep Rocket under control, do you? That's the fun of it, though. Don't you agree, Martin? You just wind him up, let him go.
Yeah, I don't know about wind him up. We had situations at Brands Hatch where all of a sudden somebody was saying, "Rob, I know you want to watch, but get out the way. I'm trying to look." You know, he wandered. When he's in the same box, he wandered. There was a situation at Donington last year, and I'm standing on the right-hand side of the box near the
stepped up bit. That's
it, because I was like, right, I want to try and see him. So Rob is on the left-hand side of me, and I've got the leaders coming through, nose to tail, three of them, bang, 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 all on top of each other. And I'm watching them go down to Redgate, and then all of a sudden, this lanky figure stands right in front of the window. So I'm having to do this, and I'm looking on the floor, and I'm going, and I can't say, "Get out the way," because I'm on mic and I'm live.
Yeah.
But the best thing about him is he still sees things when he's still a racer. So the thing that he said was twitching in the wet, he's still twitching, because when he sees something happen on the bike that nobody else can see, all of a sudden the hands go up in the air and he goes, "Whoa," like that, and we go, what was it? Tell us. I thought he was going to do a bridewheel on us then, because there was a thing on Eurosport. This was live and it was fantastic. Tommy Bridewell, who doesn't come too far away from here, was asked about qualifying down at Brands Hatch in the wet. And he said, he came out with an absolute corker. He said, it was a bit damp out there. He said, my arse was twitching like a rabbit's nose, and that went out live. And I was joking.
But we're all there. We know what he's talking about.
Yeah. And fortunately, the camera is focused right on the rider, because this is sort of like after they've had qualifying, so they've got the backdrop and everything else. But you cannot, unfortunately, see the person that's interviewing him, because I would just love to have seen the face. It would have been precious. But
It really would.
I'm sorry if I'm going into the dark here. Angela can't find the light switch up here, so I'm running on absolute daylight.
Oh,
That's why I'm disappearing.
Emma's watching. She'll tell you where
Yeah.
the light switch is in a minute. That's fine.
Yeah.
She'll let us know. She'll let us know. Listen, guys, I'm going to quickly run to the toilet. You two are going to continue previewing this weekend. Let's start getting towards that. Let's make it a wrap up for it.
I think we ought to sort of go through the sheet a bit, Martin, shouldn't we? Just to see who we think.
Which one of you? What have you got?
I got the running order here, the timetable, so we could sort of go through each class as we.
Well, I think up the top there.
What do you think?
I can guess. I'm going to say we're cracking open, aren't we? With some of the first ones. It's going to be the Bluebell Lakes, isn't it? Powerbike Race.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a precursor, because I know Max and Bob are going to be out in that, so that's going to be a bit of a warm up. We'll see how Chris Pope goes in that one, because I know he'll be out in that. He was scoring some consistent points at Brands actually, which was nice for the AFB boys, which I know they're literally to the right hand side of me out here. It is going to be a case of, I think pretty much the warm up. Qualifying is going to be pretty good as well. As to where we are on all the classes, because we've got a qualifying session for each class. I think, to be quite honest, GP Originals, when they were at Brands, they broke every lap record in each class. There's 3 classes, the Masters, the 250s and the 350s. So each of those classes, they broke their lap records. So I think that may be the case as well for the GP Originals. If we get a good dry day, we've got Bobby Berry, and I have seen champion Tommy Lawler out here already. He's come over from across the other side of the water from Ireland. So those two are going to be doing a good bit of battle. I know who does go well down here, and that's Nick Sampson. He's back out on the Star 250 Honda.
Ant Hart is one to watch.
Who's that?
Ant Hart.
Yes, yeah. He was pretty sharp as well. And they're going to like the flowing nature of Castle Combe. It was obviously very tight at the short circuit, the Indy circuit at Brands Hatch. But I think that all the 250 races, remember we've got the 125s in that as well in the ACU Championship. If I'm reading this correctly, Gavin Mills is back out there, so that's going to be a 125 record. Start to test a bit, as we know Gavin is a very, very good rider, and the 125 is his speciality. Phoenix Open, you can literally you can go down and you can say Max Simmons, George Edwards, Chris Pope, Dave McKay. Remember, we've got the True Heroes guys here this week. Shane Faber is back after his excursion off track at Brands Hatch.
I was just going to mention Shane. Actually, he's out on 1,000 1,000 Suzuki. Yeah, I mean, there's a few names that are popping out. Again, Chris Pope. He's always there, Martin, isn't he? You're getting ever so dark.
I know. Like I say, I'm going to have to. When Chris comes back, I'm going to have to find a light switch. I really am. I'm not sure what he's up here.
Yeah, Dave McKay.
Dave McKay. Dave McKay, remember, came in 3rd overall last year, so he likes his place. Somebody's just wandered across with a phone. Thank you.
Here's a name I haven't seen at North Gloucester a while. He does a lot of Irish roads, and that's Forrest Dunn.
Yes,
he's out on a GSXR 1000.
Yeah, but we haven't seen him for some time, to be quite honest. Charles Rees Hardesty goes well here as well. So, and Dan Nelms, right down the bottom of the page, Daniel Nelms, it says he's on an R6. He's
got an R1.
Yeah, he's got serious about this in the last couple of days. He's gone out and bought himself an R1, which I think is, he's going to have a chance. Because remember how he was driving in the stock 1300s on that ZX10?
Yeah, that's right.
That was an animal of a bike, and he managed to tame it. So I'm pretty sure that we've got this one sort of like almost wrapped up. We know who our front runners are going to be. It's whether they can dial into the consistency as well. Suzuki Bandits, I've already seen Lee Marks. He's fettling another bike as I speak.
What was it? You were second in the championship last year.
Yes,
I think that's going to be the usual battle that we've seen at Brands. It's going to be between him and Chris Edwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, pretty much sure. Although I do like the look of, and I don't mean this in a personal way, the number 21 of Richard Turnbull.
Right.
He's come from somewhere, and I'm not sure where it is. So, sorry, I'm just having a bit of a tension.
I've lost my page here. Yeah, I've lost my page. And I only went to school for the bus ride. Where are we? Oh, you got someone else with a torch now, have you?
No, I've dragged it off of Angela and not doing that. So yeah, Richard Turnbull, who puts, I think it was 3rd and 4th places at Brands on his Bandit. I think he's going to be another one too. And you've got a certain Mr. Hawkins has entered as well. We haven't told him you're here. If it becomes wet, Craig Harris. That as well. And who else have we got? Got a couple more people. Lee Marks is right down there. Dave Manning.
Yeah, I will say, not just because I know Lee well, but he looked good on Wednesday when I've seen him going round, and he was also at Castle Combe last Saturday on the classic bike track day, and I got to say he looks tidy on that Bandit. He really does look tidy on that Bandit.
Yeah, he does. Also the mini twins. Now the mini twins are absolutely spectacular at Brands. They really were. You expect things to sort of like die down a bit when the little, mainly 650 SV Suzuki's, Ducati Monster. We've got a couple of 600 Ducatis in there, and 1 or 2 ER6 Kawasaki's. It was just out and out competitive racing right the way up and down through the field. So we're pretty much on our way to that one. So I think we have got, in all honesty, a race program to basically to rival anybody, to be quite honest at the moment.
Something I will say, Martin, this year, what I think is a good introduction is this 600, just looking at the 600 page, this 600 Clubman.
Yes.
It gives perhaps someone who hasn't quite got the budget or got to run a standard engine or whatever, you got lights.
Somebody found the light switch.
It gives them a bit more of a chance, mate, I think. I think it does. I think that's a good introduction, that is.
It does. You're running your own championship. Now, we haven't got a newcomers championship as such. We used to run them on the Saturdays. You have to excuse me, Rob, because I'm now getting on low battery on my phone, so I'm plugging myself in. Oh, blimey, that's warm. All right, we are now on battery power. It really does. It gives people a chance to get themselves into the thick of it as well.
Yeah.
You know that there are guys up the front that are going to run away with it, the likes of George Edwards, Ricky Elder, etc.
Yeah.
But then you've got to give these people a bit of, how can I say it, a bit of encouragement as well.
Yeah.
Now,
sorry, mate, go on.
Leading that championship, I believe, at the moment is Bevan Plumley.
Yeah.
Now, he was newcomers mini twin champion, I think about 2 seasons ago, and he's had an absolutely awful time last year. Has been pitched off more bikes, and I think when he came back up to here again after getting shot off a bike at Donington, he got torpedoed down at Bybrook, which unfortunately we've seen that happen a couple of times. He's leading that championship, which is great because he's getting his confidence back in that. So that means he's one to keep an eye on as well. So he's having a good season, as I put it, already, and he's looking very promising on that.
Yeah, and that I think is a good example of that Clubman Championship, because when I spoke to him at Brands Hatch, he was right up for it. Do you get what I mean? When you're up against top spec bikes and all that, sometimes it can be a little bit demoralizing. You think, what have I got to do to stay with them, Yes. Yeah. But introducing that championship, and you could see the difference when you spoke to him. He's positive. I'll be honest, I think you could be looking at a champion elect there. I didn't want to upset anyone, but I think so.
Yeah, possibly. It's a
for that club.
consistency stage in there, and the head is screwed on the right way. Right,
Yeah.
let me put this one to you, because I'm not sure whether you picked this up.
Right.
So, Sound of Thunder.
Right.
Okay, and I also think if I can grab hold of the right piece of paper, there is a rider who only just turned 16 this week.
Finn Smart-Whedon. He's out on a 675 Triumph.
He is, and I believe that is also in the 600 class as well, if I can find that out. Yes, he is.
Right.
And he is in the 600 class as well. Now, Finn won Silverstone, his first BSB win.
Yeah, I see that.
On the Junior Supersport. He's obviously not riding the Junior Supersport this weekend, and so he's out in that 675 Triumph. Now, you think of it, you've got a rider that weighs virtually nothing, wringing wet. You know, he's 16 years of age, but he's got a bucket load of experience, and he's going to be out there on a 675 Triumph, which we know is still a useful weapon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So he could be a little bit of a pain in the backside. We know he is. I mean, Steve's told me numerous times that Finn is. But on track, I think that if he gets that dialed in, I think that thing will fly. The only thing that comes against it, I think, is the undulations of Castle Combe and its peculiarities. It will be a case
well
of...
done, Martin. You called them undulations, not bumps.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Otherwise, I have got the face, the rock of you know who. It will be the fact that the bike will be lumping around all over the place because he hasn't got enough weight. Yeah,
I bet you they'll be setting that up quite soft. For a light rider, they'll be setting that up quite soft.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll watch this the weekend, but this is my bit of prediction. Watch him. He's come from that little Supersport 300. He's used to mega corner entry and corner speed, and that pays off when you move up to a 600, mate. Pays off big time.
Oh, absolutely. On that bike, it will do. He'll be able to get that thing. This is why these junior Supersport riders, if they've got their heads worked out properly, they will actually be able to hustle a 600 around it once they make the jump up.
Yeah.
Quicker than some people can even think about, because most people are point and squirt on the 600 if they've come from another area. These guys are coming from a background where they've had to use corner speed and they've had to use drafting, because that junior Supersport, it's so competitive. I was going to say that it's just your favourite, which we've stopped you from saying, the Axe Murderers class.
Yeah.
But that's another story. It is so competitive. You have got to learn how to draft. You've got to learn how to use corner speed.
A good example of that is Dan Cooper. When I went back solo racing, he was he was calling Ferret back then on his little 125. But Daniel, and he still carried it on as he went on to the 600s. He carries loads and loads and loads of corner speed, loads of entry speed, loads, and that is coming from smaller bikes. Definitely, because that's the only way you get the advantage is by carrying loads of corner speed.
Yeah, well, he was a 125 champion, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I remember him coming around the outside of my Fireblade at Pembury, and I thought, I'll get me coat then.
Yeah, I think you would do if you had somebody like that. I mean, Coops, he's obviously running his own team now. He's got, I think, about at least 3 riders in there, and one of them is George Edwards, so we know that he's going to have a couple of wild card Supersport 600 rounds up in BSB. He's also got another couple of riders under his wing. He misses the riding, I know that much. And the biggest smile I saw on his face was a picture which was on Facebook from members meeting at Goodwood, because they let him out on a bike and he was racing again. But Coops turns over a very tidy outfit in the paddock.
Yeah.
And he's looking after tyres and all sorts of things. And I believe he's running Dennis Trollope's side of the business down there as well.
Yeah, he is now, I think. Yeah, and doing a good job at it as well. But the nice thing with Daniel is he's obviously a very accomplished rider, but he's very good at coaching people, and getting across what he wants to get out of them. I think, you know, I would imagine, I'll imagine this, but I would say he's very good at setting stretching but achievable goals for his riders.
Well, look at what he
bit,
did for Paul Messenger.
Yeah, that's right.
Paul came along to him, asked him for some help, and he followed him around at Pembrey. And by the time he'd finished with Paul, he knocked 4 seconds off of his lap time.
Yeah,
now
amazing.
You think of it, 4 seconds, not one, but 4 seconds off his time. And Paul was a changed person after that.
Yeah.
And he was vying for a championship. I think he finished up in runner-up position. But the confidence was there as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Coops with his riding, coaching and preparing bikes. I mean, I'll go down afterwards and see how much commission we're getting on this, because we're sort of like pushing. But he's a former champion, and remember, he's a King of Combe previous as well.
That's right.
He's tying with 4 wins at King of Combe, and he's tying with Josh Day. Both of them have had four wins. Max has had 1 win, so he's obviously looking for a double on this. But whether we're going to see, and there was a lot of banter going on downstairs about getting the bike out and having another go of it. I'll go home and get the Honda out, but you know, because he's still got the 600 Honda out there. It'd be good to see him go out there if he got a late entry or something daft like that. But then again, then he'd start losing money for all the other stuff that he's doing in his garage as well at the same time. But no, and he's been a superb rider coach for George Edwards, who we know is going to be. Well, he's been champion twice. He's ridden for 2 years. Come from motocross background. He's newcomers champion. Overall 600 champion, finished up, I think it was not power bike, I think it was the open class. He finished up in 3rd position on the Yamaha. He's back out on the Yamaha again on the R6, which is a new piece of kit, and was looking very quick and very, very smooth at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Yes, he is. Dare I say it, I can see a bit of Daniel in George Edwards. You can see that. I would say you could see he's being coached by Daniel, because he's got that very smooth style that you see in Daniel Cooper. Definitely.
Yeah, it's the 125 rider. He's
I'm going to get some free beer out of his old man this weekend, didn't I? After all these plugs.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Otherwise, I'll put you in the van with Lee Davies to get out to point 2.
See, as soon as someone mentions free beer, I'm back on the show again. Gents, I'm conscious that we've been going for an hour and 40. So, anything else that you want to really plug ahead of the weekend? I don't want to rob you of all your commentary information.
No, not at all.
I think we should mention that the main sponsor. Who's come on board this year? I think is it Completely Motorbikes? Martin?
That's it.
Completely Motorbikes, and they're doing a great job.
Yeah, they've sponsored the club in general, so that basically we can keep money in the kitty, as it were. And we've got a sponsor that's paying for all the nasty things in life, like programs and other bits and pieces like that. Completely motorbikes. I can't say completely motorcycles, otherwise I'll get my knuckles well and truly wrapped. They're based out in, I think it's Staverton. They've got branches out in North and South Wales, and I believe there's one in Hinckley as well. They do a lot of work, a huge amount of work in the BSB paddock. They've come along to help us, certainly for the foreseeable future. So it's great. I also want to say thank you very much to a long-time sponsor, and that's Steve Caffin of IMS, and one of Max's personal sponsors, Adam Jeffrey Flooring, who was a former rider with us as well, and I think won the championship.
On the sheet. Brilliant. And of course, Phoenix, Kevin at Phoenix has been long back as I can remember involved with North Gloucester Racing and with a number of riders with North Gloucester back in the days of Barry Middleton and such like, you know. So it's great that these sponsors have stayed on board with the club for so long, you know.
I mean, I've got a pack here which is 4 pages long. It's going to sound like an American commercial when we get going on Saturday, because we are so grateful. You know, money is desperately tight, and these people have come forward and answered the call of the club. So I think virtually every class we've got here is sponsored by somebody one way or the other. We've even managed to squeeze money out of Lee Davis, who does our recovery for us, which is very hard to do for a tight-fisted Welshman like Lee is. The van of shame. Let me just put this in, Chris, and then we can start to sort of like roll it in. Right. People don't fall off their bikes at NG meetings because they know they will get picked up by Lee Davis. And what he does, he says, right, hold your bike, so sit on it, and just put the brake on, and I'll get you back to the paddock. People have come out of there white because you shut the doors, there's no windows, you're in a dark tin box with a lunatic Welshman driving a Mercedes long wheelbase Sprinter, and I kid you not, Rob got scared in the passenger seat going out to point 2 last year.
Yeah, so much so I left me bag, me sandwiches, the radio all on the seat. I couldn't wait to get out. We've got some very, very good people behind it. And let me tell you, if anybody that comes along over the weekend, all the paddock is accessible everywhere apart from the start line. So you can go along and you can go and speak to people in their teams, etc., etc. You know, people will talk to the kids. They'll let them sit on the bike. You have your picture taken with them. It's all those sorts of things. Unless it's an area where the marshals won't let you go, you're going to have a great time, regardless. Yes, definitely.
And if you can listen to us two talking all day, we'll give you a medal somewhere along the way. For those of you that can't get here, TSL timing, you can get live timing, and unfortunately, you can also get the live commentary as well. I, myself and Angela, we've been putting out a small Facebook page that runs concurrently as well. So we'll focus on a corner like camp or something like that, and then just turn the phone on and it does Facebook Live. So you get another commentary along with a few pictures as well at the same time. And if we turn the speaker on, we get Rob in the box at the same time. I invariably have the speaker turned off. Also, we've now got a Twitter feed, which is...
that's right. Remind everyone of that.
NG commentators. So as I put out already, this is for information for the commentators and sensible comment. Angela will be moderating it. Anything else that comes through will be deleted and sent back. So anybody that's listening thinks, I'm going to send you a message. Because we know that what can happen, because they did this at Cadwell, and it was called Text the Commentator, and you take a box out of the box and you take it, and there's a phone in there. And I can remember one infamous motorcycle commentator getting a message from one person in the crowd. Evidently been going on, the meeting had been fogged off for a bit, as happens at Cadwell, and they'd been talking with no racing going on for something like 2.5 hours. And the message came through on a text to commentator.
This better not be the number plate, anyone.
No. It said, why the bleep don't you shut up? We haven't had that request yet.
Mine is normally the favourite one I get is from a rider, Dean Ratcliffe. He generally says, "When are we going to hear the Somerset tones over the tannoy?"
Oh my lord!
At least they can understand me at Castle Combe.
Yeah, there is that. Well, listen, guys, the timetable, it starts 8:40 warm up on Saturday, and of course the nature of this timetable is it's not timed like we're used to in car racing, is it? Because it kind of just keeps going, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We put down as little downtime in between races as is humanly possible.
It's just get the timetable. It just keeps going. It keeps going. And it's qualifying all morning. 30 minutes, hopefully, for a lunch break. And then you're into 10 races Saturday afternoon. 8:40 warm-up again on Sunday morning. And then it's wall-to-wall racing all day on the Sunday. So get yourself along to watch the action. and it's just going to be epic. You guys are going to have a whale of a time. There's no
Yeah,
question about
definitely.
it.
Yeah, well, it's my second home there, that place anyway. So
I know that feeling.
It's great. Yeah. Can I just say thanks for organising this, Chris? I swear Martin to back me up on that. Yeah, brilliant. At last minute, but excellent. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it was. Apologies, it was last minute to you guys and to everybody watching, and that was literally because we were waiting to have the confirmation that Combe TV was continuing. I got that 2 days ago, and I'll be honest and say, because I was suddenly going, oh my word, we've got a race day in a week and a half's time, I quickly scheduled next week's show, and then suddenly went, hang on, I've got one a couple of days. And Emma, bless her, she sort of went, is there not a bike meet show? And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's really close, isn't it? And so we just quickly set it up last night, didn't we, guys? Us three suddenly.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. Yeah.
No, it's a pleasure.
I forgone my afternoon tea with the Vintage Club. So I only had me lunch. I never had my tea and cake this afternoon. So
I would say I've forgone my gin, but that's not true at all. So
no, my heart bleeds for you, Mr. Jones. I haven't had my tea yet.
On that note, gents, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Chris.
I would normally speak to you after we go off air, but to be honest, guys, you go and get yourself sorted because you're on your phones and all of that. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah.
Keep everybody entertained, informed, and everybody that's racing have a very safe weekend. Gents, final word from you, Rob?
Yeah, great. It's going to be a great weekend, and I'll see you in the morning, Martin. Bright and early.
Martin, final word from you.
Right. Thank you very much for organising this, Chris. It's a pleasure always to do Combe TV and try and get word out about the bike. It's great fun being here, despite the fact we're up here and it's echoing all around.
It's fine. It's worked fine. Well done for persevering, mate.
Thanks very much. And we'll try and do Castle Combe proud as we try and always do.
Absolutely. Well done, gents. Thank you very much for that. Well, this has been my new company, Visual PR Production, and we'll be back next Thursday. Tune in because we'll then preview the next race meeting at Castle Combe. From Martin Bennett, Rob Jones, myself, Chris Dawes, have a very good night and enjoy yourself this weekend. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
The overall standings, it was Matt Hallam. Well done, Matt. It's Luke Cooper.
Make sure Oliver wins, otherwise, we'll never hear the end of it.
But have a fantastic time out there,
I
guys.
might be on that gin in the corner of the room.
That's your excuse, isn't it? You got that written. You had too much gin, so you couldn't see the green. I know.
Different sort of
Thank
thing.
you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chris.